It is Thursday, November 3rd here in the nation's capital. It's a beautiful fall day, almost spring-like. I think we're supposed to keep this little trend up, John, through the weekend. And let's see, because, you know, it's probably then going to be nice this week, and then it's probably going to be like 20. We're probably, you know, we haven't had anything consistent or made sense. So we're probably, so that and a whole lot more. Here's Riggo.
Thank you, Todd. And I don't see how you can compare today to spring.
I think it's nice.
Okay.
Considering the spring that we barely had.
I don't think the air is even the same in the fall as it is in the spring, but damn, look around, Todd. Those trees, they're red, and they don't got little green buds on them.
They are in all their glory right now.
They say we get 90% of our cues are visual, and you don't get any visual
I just went
cues.
Straight temperature on your ass.
Well, you're right in that sense. It is absolutely gorgeous, and I'm glad you brought that up because tomorrow I'm going to be with Uncle Jerry.
Oh my!
We're heading up to a place.
What kind of shenanigans you got going on there?
We're heading up to fish I think it's the north branch of the Potomac River, up in West Virginia.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm really looking forward to it. A little smallmouth bass fishing.
Is this up around his old property?
No. I don't know. I can't remember. No, I don't think so. You go, this is all the way. You got to go to Cumberland, and then you cut back down in there. I mean, it's really it's real close to Maryland, West Virginia. But we're going to be in West Virginia. And so I'm looking forward to this. It'll be the first actual outdoor event that I've done in quite some time, which actually begets, as I roll from that into, I've been thinking a lot about, Chongo, the quest for Chongo. And I got to tell you, the last couple mornings, and I think I told you, because I've had this neck stuff going on for now 13 years or whatever, but it's really gotten worse. And then I got the lower back, and then the knees ain't, going up and down steps ain't a lot of fun. But interestingly enough, about 3 weeks ago, I think I told you this, maybe I didn't, but I had the virus. Maybe it's 4 weeks
You've
now.
had the crud.
Yeah, exactly. So my doctor prescribed, in the beginning, he prescribed an antibiotic because he thought perhaps I had, a sinus infection. And then, but he said, you really ought to go get tested. So I got a home test. Sure enough, I tested positive. So then he put me on something I believe called Plaxavid. I think that's it.
You're in the hood.
And that's an antiviral.
Right.
So I'm taking the antibiotic and the antiviral. Todd, I got to tell you, I felt like, I'm not going to say I felt like I was 25, but I felt like I was 50. Whatever happened in that period of time while I had, the COVID, I felt great. I mean, my body did. I'd get up at night, my feet didn't hurt to go to the bathroom in the morning, my back and all. It was just like, what in the hell happened? And so the reason I'm going through this is, and so now I'm trying to figure out what was the combination that made me feel so good.
What was that elixir?
So I'm taking antibiotic now, but it ain't denting anything.
You got to talk to Ponce de Leon here and find out. Was that the one that builds up the antibodies, the monoclonal?
No, I didn't take that. Okay. No, I'm talking about the Plaxavid is actually like tablets. They're like horse tablets that you take 2 in the morning, 2 in the evening, what I recall, and then along with the antibiotic. Now the antibiotic and then the antiviral. So one attacks bacteria, the other one, I guess, does something with viruses. But we know you can't really kill a virus. Well, the whole point being here is we're trying to discover basically what's the combo because. Right. I mean, it's when you're walking around in chronic pain all day, as I am I am. And it just really starts to wear you down to the point where I start thinking about Chongo, and then you start going through, the drive, which,
20 hours?
20 hours, that isn't anything I'm going to be looking forward to. And then you've got, set up the camp, and now I understand the guy that farms my property, he usually comes in there and cuts some hay out there where it's natural prairie. So now, not that there's a lot of what you'd call tall grass prairie, there's a little bit of blue stem and some, prairie grass and that stuff. So basically, it almost like it eliminates my ability to make a fire, really, unless I want to burn myself out. I mean, start some kind of, and that wouldn't be cool, burn my truck up and the tent and the whole deal. So,
Lisa Marie, I'm going to be home early.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm flying because the Truck's still out at the farm. Anyway, so I start thinking about that. Then I start thinking about, okay, then you got to take into account of that like 20-degree mornings, 15-degree mornings. You're in the tent. You got to get out of that sleeping bag. You got to get dressed, and it's dark. You get up around 4:30 at the latest, and maybe make yourself a little tea or something, and pack your stuff up and go to the stand. And then I'll jump to the end of this, and then I'm going to come back to the middle. And then you think of, well, what in fact if after I've owned this property for almost 50 years, but I only started hunting it 25 years ago for deer. What if in fact I actually get chongo down? What if that happens? Then you go through, oh man. That's like
you better call in the cavalry.
I was telling you last week what I was watching. Now, Billy be no help at all. In fact, he wants me to basically, if he's going to hunt with me, if he gets a deer down, I guess I've got it figured out. Till I'm going to say, look, Bill, you said you wanted to learn how to gut a deer, right? Well, I ain't doing it for you, and so you can watch because I did that 10 years ago, and so. I'm just going to walk you through it. This is the way you do here.
Hands-on training?
Yeah, put these gloves on that go up to here. Okay, now start cutting around the anus, go back underneath there, and then now open up the gut and let the gut.
You make them start at the anus? Is that just intentional, or is that the way it starts?
Well, that's where lions start when they eat whatever. When they kill a wildebeest, they start eating the ass end first. Works for a lion.
Billy, I got good news and I got bad news.
It works for me.
Brother Bill.
Yeah, so anyway, you think about that part of it, which is like getting the deer. I mean, if you kill chongo, you're talking probably somewhere between, I'm guessing, the deer could weigh 250, 300 pounds, dead weight. And let me tell you something, to drag that around, even without the guts, then, only knock it down to 175, 80 pounds, maybe 200 pounds. And so it's still a lot of weight, and then you got to string it up, So you think of that, but at the same time, it would be like, I did get chongo, so that'll keep you going. But what I was going to say is, so that's the end of. But here's the reason you go, and here's the reason I will go. There's nothing quite like it, Todd. You live in town, but going out and waking up with Mother Nature. I mean, when you get up in that stand. And it's still dark, and all of a sudden the sun starts to come up very slowly, and you watch Mother Nature wake up or go to bed. There's been some critters that's been out all night, they're heading home, and there's some that have been sleeping all night, and they're getting up. And that's that to me is the coolest part. And then just to get to watch it. I mean, I got to thinking on the way over here, I might be getting to that point where I'm just going to let David Attenborough do all the work.
Maybe you're more of a voiceover guy.
Yeah,
John, I'll get you out there.
Just listen to him because he goes out. He does exactly. I mean, but actually just go watch some of his stuff and I can get all the nature I want. So anyway,
have you checked the Farmer's Almanac here for what the potential weather conditions might be?
I'm not into that so much.
How about Noah?
I've definitely been on Noah. The what do you call it? The rut, which is the time when the deer breed. Usually they time it up to be during bow season. So, the bow season starts really early, but the rut will have just concluded. That's when a deer you get really dumb. They're not super smart anymore. When they got
what little bit of brains they got
love on the mind, they get real dumb. Not like people actually.
Well, when you think about it.
So that's where I am with the hunt. I'm still the whole thing that makes it worthwhile, and I'm starting to think maybe Chongo is definitely not a figment of imagination. I saw him last year, the last day of the season. Chongo outsmarted me, as he always does. It's almost like it is. It's kind of like Lucy and Charlie Brown.
I think he's taunting you. He's over there going, "You're gonna be back here next year, kid, because I'll be here. Will you?"
That's correct. Unless somebody else gets him. He's got to be careful. There's a lot of hunters around me.
Well, that's why he knows to stay on your property.
I never thought of it that way.
He knows that
during deer season, this is like a preserve. There's only one fool out here who doesn't know what he's doing. He's so stupid he comes out here and camps, lets me know he's here. This is really cool. I like this guy.
Because I've had this guy me in 25 years. What is he doing?
So anyway, now I don't know where to start next here, but I will say this. I did something very, very interesting and fun last weekend with my lovely wife, Lisa Marie. We were invited to the Navy football game against Temple over in Annapolis.
In Annapolis, yes.
And I hadn't been, I used to do a little stuff for Westwood One on the radio.
Yes.
Mostly it was Sunday night football. But occasionally I would
Did you do that game with Tony Roberts?
Yeah, well, I did, and the game I did with him was the Michigan-Ohio State game.
That's right.
In Michigan.
That's
right. And
right.
that's kind of what was reminiscent in my mind because that was the last time I think I was at a college football game.
Oh, wow.
'Cause,
Our guy Tony Roberts.
Yeah, and so I remember driving in that morning, which was really fond memories because now that's almost 20 years ago now, which is incredible. But even then, when I saw it, it's still fresh in my mind. I remember driving past, it must have been either somebody's house. I don't know if it was a fraternity. I think it was a fraternity house, actually. And they already had the keg of beer out in the front yard. And I thought, and then I kind of got to thinking, I used to be the entertainment. I couldn't be out there
That's right.
with my, what do you call them, pledge brothers after getting all shit-faced for the game. It's like,
It was frat boy
I got
Riggo.
screwed. And basketball, okay, so you don't play basketball, but it ain't the same. They ain't doing keggers for basketball.
They're not tailgating
it's
like
December,
that.
January, and there ain't nobody outside in their shirt sleeves.
Yeah, and you're out there with 60, 70, 80, 100,000, depending on your and
exactly.
And so back to Navy Temple because I've told people, and I used to do a lot of business with Navy and on the sports broadcasting side of things.
Right.
And how impressive is that?
It was, and here's the one thing you might, is a little tidbit. Navy is one of the few places, there may be others, they may be the only one. They'll allow you to go to your car at halftime, and I guess guzzle if that's what you do, and then you can come back in. Normally, when you leave a stadium, they don't allow you to return.
Yeah.
And they told me that over there. So they said I wouldn't know, but they acted like that was kind of.
You forgot your
anomaly.
USB charger. You're like, hey, go ahead, Riggo. Yeah, we're gonna let you back in.
Do what?
You forgot your USB charger for your phone. You had to recharge your phone a little bit.
And you come back.
Come back, and he goes, smell your breath. Now we're good.
USB charger, right? That's what you forgot.
So did you get there early to see the core?
Oh yeah, we got there. We went to we were invited by Admiral Buck, Sean Buck, who actually he's I guess the superintendent of the school. He runs the school, so he had his tailgate. So, but the tailgate was inside the stadium, but it was pretty cool. And like I said, it was like I forgot all about that. And then went up in the press box, watched the game. Now I have to say this. And I suppose we have to appreciate the fact this is Navy and Temple, right? So it's not Ohio State and Alabama or Ohio State and Michigan. Because I got to be honest with you, Todd, they look like kids from where I was sitting. I thought I don't want to demean anybody because it was a really good and actually very well executed by both teams. But you got to remember, I don't know about Temple, but as a rule, if you think you got a chance at playing professional football, more than likely you're going to go to one of the big four, right? Mm-hmm. Some place where you'll get noticed, get drafted. You probably wouldn't go to Navy, although it happens occasionally. So
it happens to Navy and Temple because they do talent finds talent. They find them now, and that's where you don't typically get your highest draft picks. That's your undrafted free agents or your late rounders, typically from schools as Navy and Temple.
Yeah. So anyway, from where I was very, I enjoyed the game a lot. I really did. And Navy ended up winning the game, so that was a good deal. But I did find this out, and it's true, and it works the other way as well. There's only one game on either one of those two, and I say either one, of the military academies, whether it be West Point or whether it be Annapolis. The only game is when Army plays Navy. That's it. They don't care if they lose every other game or every game.
It's true.
That they go 1-10 or 1-9.
And it's happened a bunch where one of them is awful and the other one's really good, or even if they're both mediocre, that's all that matters to both of those schools.
We were getting ready to leave, and so we stopped by to say goodbye to Admiral Buck and his wife Joanne, and so we're talking, and I said, "Gee whiz," I said, because I think Navy's won 5 games now or something. I said, "Hey, you guys might be up for a bowl game." He almost cut me off. He says, "Wow," because then he mentioned we got Notre Dame and some of the some heavy hitters coming up, and then he said, "But in all honesty, there's only one." So it's like, I don't care if we go to a bowl game. Just beat Army. Just beat Army.
It's true. It's true. Well, they do it right up there. It's a hell of a program. It's a hell of a game day just to take the family and see what it's all about. Period.
Yeah. And it was. And you know what? I would have thought getting in and getting to the game. I mean, we got there. I think the game was a 3:30 kickoff. We got there by 2:30 or so.
Okay, but to be fair, you were in the helicopter from the Navy, and they flew you in, and then you rappelled down.
Actually, I parachuted. I just flew over.
You got the Riggo treatment.
No, but what I was going to say is it was like there was no, waiting in traffic and all that. You went right in and parked. Now, granted, it's probably maybe that stadium holds maybe 40,000. Maybe that might be a little stout, 35, 40, something like that. But all in all, it was a great day.
They do it
I
right.
really enjoyed it. May go back to another one. Who knows? Now I have a public service announcement.
Let's hear it.
Okay. If you're driving and you see a school bus, make sure you come to a stop when the lights go on. You might be able to slide by when they put on the amber lights, because that's like a warning, we're getting ready to stop. But when those red lights go on, make sure you stop. I got caught in a perfect storm about 10 days ago, I guess it was. I was on Massachusetts Avenue and Sangamore, the intersection there. There's a firehouse there. And I'm driving, and I see, and I'm approaching the intersection, and I see the lights go on the school bus.
On the school bus.
School bus. In other words, the amber lights, right?
Yep.
Which is indicating the school bus is getting ready to stop. And so I'm in the middle.
Be prepared and do the right thing.
Right, and I'm approaching the intersection. So now I'm in the intersection, and the red lights come on. The
Traffic light.
Now, so what am I? I'm going. I didn't know what to do really, because here's what you got to keep in mind. I was very well aware of the fact that Maryland, and then there's several states like this. They actually have, because there was an article in one of the papers I read about how the states are really cracking down on people not stopping for school buses when they come to a stop, which I am 100%. I've been driving kids to school for the last 20 years, and it angers the hell out of me when you see some jerk off go by a school bus.
How would you feel if you were part of an accident?
Oh.
Because, come on, it's a school bus full of kids. You know that they're going to be goofy and doing their kids.
Exactly what you read. That you
Please
never
tell
know
me
what
you're
they're
gonna
going to do.
Yeah, cameras.
They're completely oblivious. Yeah, Maryland is one of the few states, and I say few, I don't think there's a whole lot of them, that actually has cameras on the bus. So anyway, now let me add to the extenuating circumstances. Where I am, there's 3 lanes. Where the bus is coming down, going this way, there's a right-hand turn lane in there, so there's 3 lanes over there. The bus is all the way over here, so I'm like, well, what am I going to do? Stop in the middle of the intersection or stop on the other side? I mean, it was just one of those awkward, you couldn't think. So I just kept going. Well, yesterday, mail comes, at least Mario.
You got a red light because the red light camera had the red light had a camera.
Exactly. And guess what? You know what the fine is?
100?
$250.
Woo!
That'll get your attention. Now, if a policeman would have seen this and stopped me,
so let me
it would have been $550.
Let me make sure I'm understanding.
And 3 points on my license.
Let me make sure I'm understanding this correctly for our listeners and viewers out there. The ticket, was it for the red light camera or it's a school bus?
No, it's a school bus. It's all about the school bus.
Okay, that's okay.
No, I had a green light. I was going through a green light, but but I saw, like I said, as I was approaching the intersection, there was amber lights, which I should have stopped then. But there was, your brain ain't working quite fast enough, and so here's the law. But the road was so wide, and they were way over here. It wasn't like a 2-lane. Like that's where normally you encounter a school bus. You don't hardly ever on a 4-lane road. I looked it up because I was going to go in before the judge. But there's a couple of things that you have to know that would make you think twice about that, and plead my case that, hey, I was in an intersection. Well, I didn't think I was supposed to stop in the middle of an intersection. But then I read that, well, it doesn't make any difference how wide the road is unless there's a dirt or some kind of median, like you would see, or trees, or whatever it is that separates the two. You got to stop. I guess you could have 8 lanes of road there, or 4 lanes going each way, and if there isn't anything separating them, you got to come to a stop.
Wow.
So I learned the lesson the hard way. But it was like I said, there were so many lanes, and the way the light hit, and I knew when I did it, I thought to myself, I know that bus has a camera on it, so You know,
Riggo's PSA. Listen up, people. Don't let this happen.
Yeah, that's what I'm just saying.
You.
Really be cautious when you're around a school bus. I mean, I guess it's kind of like, you know, when they call it defensive driving, is always be prepared, anticipate that bus getting ready to stop, and when you see those amber lights, you know, just come to a stop. And it don't make any difference if, you know, I don't know if it's on the interstate, you know, it's over on the other side, and you're going, well, I don't know if I got to stop now, but. And I don't mean to make fun of this at all because it's very serious business, just what you said. But here's the other thing: if I went to court, and when I read that, I realized, well, they're going to say thank you, but no, you screwed up and you owe us. But here's what happens: you go to court and you read on there, the fine is, like I said, it's $250. If you go to court, it says you won't be charged more than $550. Which means
court cost.
Go in there and tell them, you know, whine about it, and they'll, okay, here's another $200 that you owe us.
Court cost.
Yeah, it said that. It's like $550 plus court cost, which you don't even know what that is.
And then the headlines are John Riggins hates kids.
That ain't right. We know that. Like I said, I've been driving my daughters to school for the last 20 years. So
you've always been super cautious. You take it seriously.
Oh, yeah, and that's why I brought it up, because
it could happen to anybody.
It's a public service announcement to let you know that when you see a school bus, you know, it don't make any difference. That school bus got a red light on. I don't give a goddamn where you are. Stop.
That's right.
Just stop. It's the right thing to do. I blew it. I screwed up. So I got to own that. Now, one last thing. Yesterday, I'm getting ready to go on the hunt, so, you know, like everything else. You know,
it's November 3rd. There's 3 weeks of contemplation here.
Oh, yeah, and you know what this is like, golf, if you can really relate to this. And everything is about, where's my lie? What's my lie?
Yes.
And then in golf, isn't it, because I don't know enough about golf, but I know that they go, you know, that's what the caddy's there for, that you go, do I use the 3-iron?
Where's the wind coming from? Toss a little grass.
Right, but it's all about that club. Which club do I use? So
how you hitting it today?
In hunting, it's all about the gun, the caliber of the gun. So last couple of years, I've taken 2 guns with me. I don't know why. I don't know why I do it. A, because I can, and B, because I'm a fuckhead. So that's why I do it. So it's almost like I've got I feel kind of like an assassin, I guess, because you got to have the right gun, right tool for the right job. But I never will get a shot that's like 300 yards. And for guys like me, I probably shouldn't take that shot to begin with. But so I've got like this real flat shooting. It's called a .264 Winchester Magnum, real flat shooting rifle. It shoots like a 130 grain bullet. But in the flat shooting part is so that way you don't have the holdover and all that stuff. You can pretty much, if you're zeroed for 200 yards, you pretty much can hold on the animal, you know, maybe a little adjustment at 300 yards. And then for in tight in the brush and stuff, you know, where you got more cover, usually where I hunt. Then I've got, last year, I brought out the .338 Winchester Magnum, which is a much bigger gun, and it's got 300 grain bullets on it, twice, because theory being, round-nosed bullets, theory being that, you know, if you got a little brush between you and the critter.
Bore through.
You bore right through it. And I've been reading all about that, reading about shot placement, all this stuff. So now all of a sudden I got it in my head that, I was telling this to Billy, but he got bored real quick. And I could tell, so I said, all right, Bill, I'll see you in a couple of weeks. And
Billy's like, John, what kind of beer you want me to get?
So I've actually got myself in a situation now where I'm going to go, I'm not 100% sure. I'm going to have to zero the gun again, but I've got a .375 H&H Magnum, which is a more powerful gun than the .338. It shoots the same size bullet, a 300 grain bullet, and I got some old Winchester ammo I did back when I did some work for them. I mean, this ammo's 40 years old. But it still works. I think it does. I'll find out when I go shoot it in. But the reason I'm telling you all this stuff, so I go downstairs, and I've been dry firing a .375 a little bit just to kind of get used to, you know, holding the gun and all this stuff. And I flipped it upside down for some reason, and I realized the whole thing that attaches to the action of the gun, your trigger, guard, and all that stuff, it was loose. And I'm going, what the hell is this all about? Because hell, I was using it, you know, well back when I was doing Riggo on the range, and I don't know how it worked its way loose. So I realized that I had to order I had to get. I didn't have to. I could have tightened it up, but I wanted, once again, Marcus de Queensberry. You got to go by the rules. I needed to get it right to the right foot-pounds of torque. These two screws that attach the stock to the action. So, and I've always wanted one. In fact, I thought I ordered one a while back, but I didn't. But so anyway, I need to get a torque driver. So on the 29th, which is just a few days ago, I did in fact order a torque driver, right? But then I realized, where the hell is it? Because it seemed to me like it was longer. I'm going, this thing should have been here. I'm going. So then I go back and I go back through my history of everything on the computer, right? And I'm trying to find out where's this purchase. I can't find it. And I go, and this is where I'm going, God damn it. Did I think I ordered it and didn't order it? Or didn't I? Sometimes I'll create a text and not send it.
Right.
Right? Have
We've
you
all
done
done
that?
it.
Okay,
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I get a little worried about myself sometimes. I mean, hey, it's bad enough with the chronic pain now. I get chronic brain to go with chronic pain. I'm done. Anyway, so I start going, damn, I don't think. I can't find it anywhere. No place in my, in the history of what I've been doing with the computer. So I go online again, and I find a place there that sells what I wanted. So I go ahead and I order it, and now I'm going, okay, at least I'm going, God damn, it's going to set me back because I really wanted to get it and get this thing tightened up so I can go shoot my gun in, right? Yesterday, no more than a couple hours after I had ordered this thing, I go out and I look and I say, oh, I got a couple packages from UPS. So I go out there and the one, I forget what was in it. Oh, I know, that's some peppermint that I ordered. And then there's this other package. I went, oh, what the hell that is? And I open it up, and don't you know, that's the torque driver that I had ordered. So now I've already ordered one that's on its way. So now
you got two?
I got two.
You got a backup.
But yeah, it was like, So there was a happy ending to this because a lot of the companies, the good companies, if you order something you don't like it for whatever reason, they'll send you a return shipping label, and all you got to do is put the shipping label on and send it back. So that's all I'm out. But it was going to be one of those deals where, okay, now I got to pay about $15 for return shipping. It's like, Jesus, what a blockhead. But anyway, enough about my blockheads. What about yours?
Well, we don't
have nearly as many.
We got to talk about the really big news, and I'm talking about that the Astros.
You talking about the election next week?
Well, no, it's actually.
We'll get into that.
Yeah, we'll get into the election, but it's actually about the Astros and the Phillies. And that we're playing baseball.
Have you been watching it?
I have.
And what's the series at right now?
So unbelievably.
Oh, well, I'm gonna beat you to this because I saw the headline today. There was the first no-hitter, took 4 pitchers since 1956, Don Larson, but Don upped him a little bit. He pitched a perfect game.
And it was one dude.
Huh?
It was one Don Larson, not Don in the gang.
Exactly.
So the night before,
no hitter by what do they call that?
Committee.
By committee, no hitter by committee.
That's right, and that's the first time that's ever happened. And so the night before, Philadelphia smashed them. I think they hit 4 or 5 home runs. Bryce Harper got him. Bryce is killing it. Bryce is. Finally, Bryce is Bryce.
He's finally becoming the guy everybody thought he could be.
He's the man. So they waxed the Astros. They shut him out the night before, and they go up 2-1. And then this pitcher last night for the Astros, he mowed them down. The starter through 6 innings. Then they brought in the committee, closed him out. So now it's 2-2. And they go back to Houston, so it's a best-of-3 series to Mattress Mac, our guy Mattress Mac with the 75 mil running. He got into it with the Philadelphia Philly fan the night before. It was Philly. Can you believe it?
He pulled a Sam Huff on him?
Well, Mattress
Sam?
Mac, I believe, was 75, and the Philly fans started giving him the business. And Mattress Mac was not playing, told him to fuck off, this and that.
Oh, yeah.
And he got in their grill a little bit. So it's 2-2. We're playing baseball in November. Seems a little weird.
I think it does, too. Let me ask you this. Does anybody pitch a complete game anymore? Are there any pitchers that complete?
Boy, no. I mean, once in a blue moon, they're pulling pitchers in the regular season. There's multiple guys that have no hitters.
When you get into postseason, there's no way they're going to let a pitcher go 9 innings.
I can't imagine it now. I can't imagine. And last night would have been a perfect, because it's all about pitch count. everything is regimented by the data and its pitch counts.
It's like computer baseball.
Yeah, unless the guy is only throwing, because he's getting them out on first ball hits. And
then he could keep going.
Yeah, because he'd have more pitches and how it's doing. But I can't even imagine that in today's scenario. It's truly bizarre. The game has changed so much. So
everybody's entrenched in this theory that, well, basically after 6 innings, we got to, regardless, or maybe 7, like you said, if he's getting a lot of, one pitch outs. But other than that, he's definitely coming. He's not going to finish the game, bottom line. Not going to happen.
No. And he probably doesn't want to. So there's that. These guys, it's a different game.
Less is more.
It's a different game. It's big ball. It's power baseball. It's kind of boring because there's very little small ball anymore. Strategy seems to be guys can't bunt. So they had a power hitter last night, and it was the perfect situation. And it was funny because the announcing team, John Smoltz, and they were like going, he really should bunt here, but we don't know if he can.
Well, that's like, well, really, you bring up something, fundamentals. I think, excuse me, please. With the age, I guess, I don't even know what to call it specialization, but somehow everything evolves.
Yeah.
But watch, take any football game, and I don't know about college, but and it's probably the same thing, high school, same thing. Nobody knows how to tackle anymore. There's no blocking. Same thing. There's no old school stuff. But maybe the rules are what have the way the rule changes have made these sports evolve the way they have when it comes to your fundamentals of what once was a fundamental is no longer important. Really.
Yeah, you bring up a great point because it is about specialization. But what's fascinating, John, and compare it back to the NFL, certain teams. Like you would still thrive today. Like Derrick Henry.
Yeah, I saw. He crushed Texas.
Yeah, but he's their only thing they got, and they realize that, so they're building the game around him. But it kind of does depend on him. Everything else is you got to go through the motion. But that's their strength, and some of the running backs, they're if used correctly within the right systems, they are thriving again. But most of it's pass heavy, as we all know.
And that's why the running backs are making a bit of a resurgence.
Yeah.
But also you wonder, too, about the game, football, is I can't help but thinking that, with the liability that perhaps the owners have been exposed to when it comes to injury, that the game is slowly but surely being sanitized. And
no question.
And, in other words, hockey, another violent sport, but I always say this, the business model of hockey ain't for these hockey players to line up and start skating towards each other and collide.
Right.
They're usually everybody's moving it now. That's not the business model. Football, that's the business model. That's the very common denominator. That's where it starts off right there. In hockey, everybody's usually moving parallel, trying to get the puck. So my guess is football is taking a lesson from hockey, and they're trying to keep running parallel.
Well, it's back to your point about fundamentals, in which this is what's fascinating. As much as the NFL changes the rules because they are trying to make it a safer game.
Yeah, I think.
But you can't take away the violence and the essence of the game. And so when you see, how they overprotect the quarterbacks, okay, and that's fine and dandy, the most valuable players, and they say that, but the guys in the trenches, in the position that you played, and what linebackers and what they have to do, the NFL is making an investment in flag football of over $1 billion.
What?
Flag football, over $1 billion.
The next big thing?
Because back to your point about liability, what this is doing to players' health in the future. But one thing that has always struck me, look at Australian rules football and rugby, right? You don't hear about massive injuries to the degree that you see with the NFL.
And they don't wear any padding.
No,
do they?
Very little. But they're tackling, and while maybe not as intense and as every single play, but it's pretty vicious.
Right.
But they learn how to use this with the shoulders. And Pete Carroll and the Seahawks have been ahead of the curve on this as far as taking cues, and they're trying to get back to these types of fundamentals so the guys stop leading with their heads and try to take that part of it out. But
yeah, I think Sonny said years ago that you can clean a lot of this stuff up by just taking a face mask off. He may be right. I don't know.
Well, doesn't the equipment to that degree, it kind of shields you and gives you overconfidence until...
Yeah, that's what it is.
Did you ever get a stinger? a stinger like with something, with the shock of the neck, because
I'm sure I have, but never one that I went, oh wow, what was that?
yeah, like really got your attention to the point of whoa.
Yeah, years ago I went to England, and they were talking about how rugby basically, how that's a man's sport. You guys wear all these pads, and I said, let me tell you something. Most people, now not everybody's like this, because you got the guys, that are super smart, but they don't mind sacrificing their bodies, and they'll go all in. I was never one of those guys. You got to know how much you can take out of a guy. That's what I tell people. You know how much, and if you keep peeling pads off, that area that you're going to hit gets smaller and smaller. That's what I think. It's just
sure.
Like what
Nobody wants to mess up their face.
Face mask,
right?
Exactly.
Nobody wants.
Even though years ago when the game first started, that's what you're looking at, and that's why you had a lot of guys and hockey players. I wonder if that's when hockey players seem like they got more teeth missing than football players, don't they?
Back in the day, for sure. Not as much now because. Remember, helmets weren't mandatory in hockey for the long. Even goaltenders. Can you imagine playing goalie back in the day
with no helmet?
And with no face mask? Even gosh, in the evolution of the game.
I'm scared of a fastball. What would a hockey puck going about 150, 200 miles an hour?
Oh my gosh! You get the right guy up there.
And that's hard. That's hard rubber, right?
Oh my! That's
probably.
I think they call it vulcanized rubber.
Yeah, I was going to say that's definitely more than 300 grain.
All right, so we got. That's my elephant impression. The elephant in the room.
Huh?
The big elephant in the room. The bombshell, Riggo.
Okay.
All right. So, breaking news yesterday that the Snyders have hired Bank of America Securities for potential partial sale or a potential full sale, if we get the right number. And it rocked. It rocked the news world, the sports world yesterday. And
really?
It still rocked it, John. Rocked it. Because this has been...
Stupefies me.
And here's why. Because the other leagues have gotten rid of owners that they've had far less problems with. This is the constant drip, and I've mentioned this many times for years over the last couple of years, death by 1,000 cuts. I've never seen a company, forget football, an organization that is constantly in the news for all the wrong reasons. It's stunning, and it's a bad look for the league. There's still 5, 6, maybe even 7 investigations that are currently open, still open, and it's monumental for them to come out and make this announcement in the middle of your damn season with 9 games to go, and then you can't make it up. What were your thoughts when you first heard?
I didn't really care, and that's the point I was going to make. And I got a feeling a lot of the people that were really real true believer fans of this franchise back in the glory days and tried to hang on over the last couple decades, I got to believe they're probably like me. Complete apathy. That's really, they say that type of when you just you're devoid of any feeling,
right? That's
as bad as it gets. You finally really have. If people are angry, that means they still care. When they don't care, you got a problem.
John, it's Howard Cosell, it's Howard Stern. It was Rush Limbaugh. Love me, hate me, don't ignore me. When you got your 50%, you love you to 50%, and you've got the magic formula. But apathy, you're done.
Yeah, and that's what I feel.
And it doesn't matter what business or what your product is, and you are correct, because the fans finally, by every metric, this was a top 5, 6 franchise in the history of the league, in attendance, in revenue, in TV ratings, last or next to last in damn near every category. That's how far this thing has fallen.
Yeah, and that's why, like I said, that just, I could really care less, really. I mean, I guess for the people that think that it's gonna, if something happens, something becomes out of this, okay. But I mean, the franchise would seem to have just, and based on what you're saying, I got to think, I never really thought of it until just, recently, or maybe even since yesterday, thinking just what you said earlier. All the stuff that just keeps coming out that is something that, as I think he was the one that originally first used it, George Allen, distractions. If you're a player or a coach, and this is where you work, with this constantly going on, I mean, you got to have a little bit of empathy for those guys because it's not their doing. You know, it's something else. It's above you. It's organizational, and I have to believe, as what you were saying, after a long enough time, if the NFL's watching this, and they are, and they see, which I would have to believe, but you said it turned the sports world on its ear, and I'm not saying it didn't, but like I said, but where it really counts are the people that come to the games, the people that watch the games, the people that buy the products that the NFL advertises. When they get, like you said, when they become apathetic and don't care, you got a problem. I would guess in the business world, and I got to believe that the league's got to be aware of this, that's what's happening down here. There's nobody goes to the games anymore. That's like, gee whiz, what's that all about? Which isn't a good sign. Which is one of your franchises is really falling off the face of the earth for the most part. I don't know how you can tolerate that. And so my thinking is basically, perhaps maybe what you said, is that this is by grand design, and perhaps I don't know. This is also perhaps an opportunity, for the team itself, for the owners to put it out, to finally air this out, because maybe there's more going on behind this. And that's what I told my wife. I said, well, there's so much we don't know at all of what's going on behind the scenes. I mean, late yesterday afternoon, you texted me that the state of Virginia is maybe perhaps opening a criminal investigation.
That's the second one. This is the Virginia Eastern District Court, I believe.
So that would be federal.
That's separate.
That's federal.
Yeah, that's separate from the Virginia Attorney General.
And then D.C. and Maryland.
Right. It's like, do you want door number one? There's like 8 doors now.
So basically, it makes you wonder if, I guess if I'm the owners, I'm trying to get as much money as I can, so I don't know. Maybe
that's what this is all about.
The way to generate more money. But you would think this is basically a tear down. This isn't a house you're going to move into and go, okay, this is turnkey. You're going to raise the house.
You are, John, but it's going to be a raised house in the best neighborhood in town, and you're buying it for the land and the value it will be. And this is going to be.
So you're saying, forget about trying to pull that off at the bargaining table.
No, they know this is going to appreciate so much value. We're beachfront, baby, and I'm going to get rid. So maybe I did have this unbelievable house 22 years ago. Haven't kept it up.
Yeah.
There's been a few fires.
It's in shambles. A lot of parties are going on.
Maybe some dead bodies in the back. We were going to clean it up, but now we're going to, you know what? Let's just sell. We're going to go away, and the next guy's going to come in, and he's going to build, and he's going to get his stadium, and he's going to reap all the benefits that is what this should be a top 10, easily top 5, 6 franchise. And this is going to go for record money in the $8 to $10 billion range. Yeah. $8 to $10 billion.
I think you're right. My wife brought something up interesting, though. She said, well, like anything else, I was saying, well, how much equity you got in our house? And I forget what the number was, but it was fairly significant. But she's saying, but that doesn't mean that the ownership of this franchise has a lot of equity. In other words,
there's leverage, highly leveraged. Highly leveraged. So, that's always been the dirty little secret.
So there's a lot of people to pay off.
That's always been the house of cards, and a lot of people. 100%. Why do you think he had to borrow almost $500 million to pay off Dwight Schrute and Fred Smith a couple years ago?
Yeah, exactly. That's
leverage people, highly levered.
That was very telling, I thought.
No question about it. So as the Commanders turn, to your point, John, the fans have been fed up forever. It is what it is, and until that. But this was stunning and startling, the timing of the middle of the season, which obviously they knew this criminal investigation was going to be opened up. And ESPN has had a fiber optic microscope up their ass when they've got their investigative team of 5, 6, 7 people doing exposés, and that's the league's biggest partner. Mm-hmm. And the league, ESPN, they don't fart and mess with the NFL unless the NFL blesses it. Trust me, we've seen this a million times before in previous iterations. So this is all by a grand design, folks.
Yeah, I would say so. Definitely. I mean, it would seem to me that that's what it is, that slowly but surely that they're starting to cut off all the escape routes, so to speak.
And with that Kirk Cousins comes into town. The 6-1 Minnesota Vikings come into town on Sunday, and they are 3.5-point favorites against the Manders, who have won 3 in a row. The Manders have won 3 in a row, so I don't know. Maybe somebody will be out, but if not, then I know who will be.
That you bring up a point here just by saying that. If, let's just say that there is a sale, what are the odds that the new owner will change the name? I would say pretty good.
I'd say really good.
Yeah.
I'd say really good.
I would think so.
Yeah.
So that would be the other thing you get to do is, basically, I mean, what do you do? I mean, what did Elon Musk do when he went to Twitter? Right?
You nailed it.
Wiped it clean, basically. I don't want to get. That's almost like a political football.
No, it's not.
But,
I mean, listen, if you own the organization.
Exactly.
You get to do what you want to do with your business, and this will be treated as pretty much a startup franchise in a made neighborhood, right? Again, you come in and you can, with the right business people in charge here, what this thing can get back to being, which the league cares about because it's about that cash.
Name of the game? No question.
Name of the game.